So we're going to talk about application of nodes. Basically, we want to show you how you can use some of the techniques that we've already shown you with nodes and apply them into a big, huge, very complex node graph. And let's take a look at this LaSalle Street footage and show how we can use nodes in different ways and how they combine in different ways to give you totally different effects.
All right, I just created something here using, let's see, we got like 4 different layers. We have a layer mix. We have a few different serial nodes. And if I just play this, you'll see it in a loop. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and recreate this from scratch again.
Great.
Okay. Remember that one key that wipes everybody out? It's right up in here, sessions.
The nuke key.
The nuke. We're going to blow everything away. Base memory reset's going to blow everything away. And we're going to start with absolutely nothing on this. I'm just going to make this a little bit larger so I can see this a little bit better. First thing I'm going to do, Steve, is I'm going to richen this up, make it a little bit deeper. And if you guys at home want to start the same way with this, I'm going to basically set the shot up a little bit richer and a little bit deeper. So I'm going to actually going to come back here, and I always forget to do this, is because I have a double monitor at home, so I have my scopes always up. So I'm going to come back over here, and I can't color correct without this. That tells me what I'm doing. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to richen this up a little bit. Again, I like to crush the gammas down, and I'm going to pull the lift up, or the shadows up, whichever way you want to call them. And it's going to really collapse the bottom half of that for me. I'm going to make it a little bit deeper. And then I'm going to cool it down slightly, maybe something like that.
So this is your primary grade.
Yeah, and I'm just going to stretch some levels up here because I know a little bit later in this thing I'm going to kind of darken it down, maybe with windows or a key or whatever. But I'm going to start somewhere in this neighborhood here. My black's really more clean, and I'll give it a little more saturation because. So now that's my starting point. So I'm just going to, just for grins, I'm going to move this up here a little bit higher so we can see where I'm going to stash this. Right now in option 1 in the A temporary memory.
Your little temporaries.
Right. So if I come over here, if I go base memory, which wipes everything out, and I come back and single click on the A node or the A memory,
you've applied that to that node.
Exactly. So if I mess this up somehow, I'm pulling out of my back pocket and I got it still.
Sure.
Okay.
Or if you wanted to have a grade from another shot that you've already done, and you're saying, how can I apply that to the next shot? This is the way to do it. You can save it in these nodes. A nice, simple, every one of your numeric keypad buttons is able to save one of these things, 1 through 8, or A through J, and then you can simply apply them with a click. Yeah,
so it's really helpful to use. So again, well, we need more tools now. Okay, so I'm going to throw in another serial node on this. Okay, and the serial node is just going to cascade.
Yep.
So from the output of the last node right here, it automatically goes to the input of this node.
And you did that with a click on the mouse, but you could also go to nodes here and do add a serial node.
Yeah, actually on the keyboard I hit Shift S to get me where I had to get to bring it on in.
Yep.
So now I'm just going to, in this I'm going to make a little bit deeper. I'm going to put a little bit of an S curve in on this. So I'm going to go to the curves. And I'm going to make sure that I'm not in the gang mode because I just want to do this in the luminance channel. And so I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to put a dot right in there, and I'm going to pull this back up into here a little bit.
And by turning off the gang mode, none of the other curves, the red, green, and blue, none of the others are moving at the same time. And if you hadn't done that, all of them would be moving at the same time.
Exactly. So now if I want to come back here and maybe add a little bit more coolness, could maybe go like that and maybe sneak a little bit of green in there to help neutralize that a little bit, but to help take it away from the blue. So now I've created something with a little bit more. If I turn, again, I'm really big on before and after just to see where I've been.
Yep.
And so we're going to go right over here and I'm going to make room for this right now. While I'm here, I'm going to add one more node here that I really want to do is a luminance key on this. Okay? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come up right over here to the nodes, and I'm going to go add before current. And it's going to add a node for me right here before this one that's selected. So I'm going to go right there, and so now that's really set. So I'm going to bring this guy back into here.
And my guess is that the reason why you wanted to add before current is because now you've brought that level down quite a bit, and in order to be able to pull your Luma key, you want to pull it from a little bit brighter point.
Exactly.
Perfect.
You're reading my mind on that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this guy here off, okay? I'll leave him there. And now I'm going to come back over here, and I'm just going to come into double-click on it to make sure that I am active.
Sure, you have the blue outline.
Yep. Right. So I'm going to come down over here to my qualifier, and I'm just going to use this in luminance only, okay? So I'm going to come right over here to this area here, and generally I'll just take it to something like this, and basically then kind of slide in a low soft on that. And if I look at this, if we turn the highlight on, right, like that, I can really maybe adjust it a little bit better so it's a little bit more crunchier. But really all I'm really doing is trying to give myself something to work with that I know I'm going to adjust a little bit later in that. So I'm going to keep that there, and I'm just going to basically, I'll save this in my B buffer, okay? I'm going to go Option 2. So that's saved in there right now. And I'm going to turn this highlight off. Now remember when we do this, okay, everything that is white is going to be inside, and everything that's black is going to be outside, right?
One quick comment to the user. I think this is worth pointing out, especially for the folks that are maybe coming from color, and you're used to seeing something that's black and white matte.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you can choose instead of seeing just a black and white, instead of seeing the gray and then the key. If you want to see an actual black and white matte, we can do that from our settings. Mattes display high contrast black and white. Just gives you a different look, and if this is what you're used to seeing instead of that kind of grayed out version, then this might help you.
So basically we're in that grayed out mode, so I need to adjust this key. Okay, so we're going to come over here and we're going to work with it a little bit. So I'll just go maybe something like that.
So it really lets you see exactly what you're selecting, what you're qualifying.
Right, so now if I left this and did any color correction in here, it's going to color correct inside the white area that I really don't want to do. So I'm just going to invert this, and now I'm going to color correct in the white area. Okay, and what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to pull that down a bit more. I'm using the midtones, okay, and I'm not clipping it off down there, okay. I'm just pulling it down, and I'm still leaving those whites happening, but I'm also going to raise a little bit more white just to give that a little bit more of a contrast, okay, in that area there. And sure, I'll throw a little bit more coldness back into that. So that's what I've done in this particular node right here. So remember now back in node 2, which was basically there before I added him in, if I turn him back on, so now with that S-curve that we got going, that was right here. Remember that guy?
Yep.
Okay, and this is what's really happening. Maybe I might bring him up just a nudge so we can see a little bit more like that. So that's what I got so far. So let's just go to Option 3.
And if you look on the C buffer just loaded up.
Right, and I'm also going to hit Command S to save the project right now because we're pretty far along. So we have 3 nodes going right now. And what I really want to do now is I'm going to come over here. I'm actually going to zoom this back a little bit and move it over to the side. On this node, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the nodes and add a parallel node. And you'll see what actually happened here. The parallel node is right here. It added a node to the bottom, and it connected this particular node to the output of node number 3. So I could work off of this if I wanted to. So let's say, for example, if I drew a window around this car down here, let's see what that would look like. I'm just going to come down over here and put a little circle there, come down like that, and I'm just going to brighten him up a little bit. Okay, but you can actually see what's actually happening. It's brightening it up, but it's working off of this particular last color correction. But I don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to delete the link, and I'm going to move this back over to here and try connecting this again. There it is. And now you see what actually happened. We went back more to the original color.
And the point here is that you're trying to brighten it up. You don't want to work from a darkened copy of the shot. You want to work from the original brighter version of the shot.
Right, and all we're doing now is we're putting a soft edge in on this, okay?
So that's why you broke the link, because the link originally was to the dark shot, and you wanted to link back to the bright shot, which is actually the input, which is the little bluish line off to the far left.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And so what that allowed me to do is put a little bit of a window in there, okay? I'm just going to add a serial node now to the output of my parallel node. So if I want to do something overall, I can. So I'll just put that right there and do a little bit more windowing, but we're going to do some more layering stuff.
So Bob, I got a great idea. Let's take that sleeping woman. Remember you created that little highlight glow on her?
Oh, yeah.
Let's add that. Let's show how we can take a node that we've created or a look we've created on a different node and apply it to one of these nodes for this project.
Okay, well remember that we did that and we saved it as a power grade. So I'm going to move my parade scope out of the way right now. Actually, I'm just going to close it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back right over to here, highlight glow, and I'm going to right click it. Remember our buddy? We have a couple of different options. We can either play it as a still. We can add the whole color correction, which is going to wipe this out. We don't want to do that. We can append a node graph, and what that means is what it'll do is it'll add this color correction to the back end of it. So if I select that, you'll notice it was added back over there. Okay, if I do a Command Z, that goes away. Back again on this, we can display the node graph, and at this point here, we can select any of these we want to drag it across. So if you have 10 or 20 of these in here, and you just want to grab one of them, you can, or take the whole thing. I'm just going to take this particular one.
Which is your glow. Right,
this guy right here. I'm going to drag it and drop him in right there. Okay, remember that serial node that I created? Well, I created that because I knew they were going to drop this on top of it. Okay, there is no place to put it, so I needed to put that there. And so now what we got going, just got a little bit more of a glow happening. You see it in the whites. Okay, and we'll keep that for now.
Got it.
Okay, so now let's add some more windows.
Great, let's do that.
So what I'm going to do here now, and remember this one over here we did in a parallel mode?
Yep.
Okay, so now let's do something with the layer mode. Okay, so I'm going to right click on this. Actually, I'm not going to right click on it. I'm just going to move this down so I got some room down over here. And I'm going to come up to the top and I'm going to add a layer node. And what that's going to do for me, it's going to allow me now to work within this, and all I really want to do is add a couple windows, right? And so right now, this guy here is showing me that it's getting fed all the way from this guy, from node number, actually from the parallel node, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this node link, okay? Because I don't want to be fed from here. I want to be fed from way earlier in the chain, which is, you know, one of the best things about DaVinci. So I highlight it and delete the link. And so now I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to drag from here, drag it across. So now I have that set up.
And you saw that it instantly brightened up those two nodes because instead of being fed from the ones that you've already darkened, we're being fed from the actual original source clip.
Right. So this is without any color correction at all. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take maybe a little bit of a window here. So we haven't done this in a while, my little curve window. I'm just going to just pop some dots in around here and close that off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lose the inside softness on that, but I'm going to extend the outside softness. Okay? And you'll notice I'll turn off the outside, the lines on that. Now that's given us complete color correction. There's nothing on it. So what I can do here now is I can pull this down a little bit more if I want to do that, just so I can create that as I want and come back and soften that down into that area. Or maybe just keep it a little bit smaller. What's nice about the node in this particular application, the B-spline, you can actually change the size of that if you want after you go ahead and cut it. So that in itself is pretty cool. We couldn't do that in the color that I was working on. So now I brought a little bit of detail. All I really want to do is just open some of that up in that area there. So I'll keep that one there. And, I'm going to add another layer right now. And what I'm going to do right now is I want to turn that into a little bit more warmth, because actually I'm going to move this. Let's open that up, and maybe, it's a burning laser. Maybe we're going to start a fire. So I'm going to come over here and add another layer. And again, it's exactly what I expected to happen. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a circle, come down over into this area here. And where does that guy blow up at? Right in that area there. So that's a good spot. We'll keep that in there. And turn this guy off like that. I'm just going to use the gains, and I'm going to use the gammas.
You're pushing warmth in your gains and gammas using the Avid control panel.
Yes, I am, and I'm doing that just so
to give it a little fire look.
Yeah, just to give it something, some interest in there. And
so basically, we've created a window, a new window that's in a layer mode, coming back from our original correction, and going from that original source, we're warming it up and brightening it up a little bit to look like that laser hit is doing something.
Yeah, something. I mean, it's not. We'll throw a little soft edge on that there, maybe. But you're getting the idea.
Yep.
Okay, so we got that going. If we hit play on that, kind of lingers in there.
Got it.
Something cool, something different. What else can we do in this? Hey, there's some people running down over here.
Okay, let's track one of them.
Let's come back over here.
And now, Bob, we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about tracking later, but let's just show quickly how this will work in a node.
Right. Well, tell you what, let's create another node
Perfect.
For her. So one more layer on this. And I'm going to come down over to this way and bring this back up. And all I need to do is make a window. And I'm going to bring it down, turn my outlines on so I can bring it on down to her right over there. And I'm just going to size this up a little bit. And we'll just make it just so it's like that, and throw a little rotate on it, okay? And actually, if we leave it right there, I'm going to turn these lines off, and if we let it run, she runs out of it, right? So what we really want to do is we want to track her. Okay. We want this little light to follow her. So I'm going to take it back to the head of the scene. Oops, all the way back, not loop it. And I'm going to position this around her right there. I'm going to lose the soft edges on it. Okay, and maybe we'll just zoom in a little bit more so it can find it. And I'm also going to put a little bit more contrast into this. Hopefully it'll help it find points. And so what I'm going to do now is we can either go to the viewer or we can go to the tracker right here up on top and say track forward. Command T will do that, and you see what actually happened right there. It threw us into the actual viewer room, and it tracked the image. But you'll also see that because she ran out of frame, the tracker doesn't go out of frame. And we can fix that. That's not a big deal. And we'll show you how to do that coming up in the tracking section of this.
So this LaSalle Street node graph is really complex, and I think that what might help is if we take a real simple example, like the highlight glow on the sleeping woman, and just explain the difference of how something looks, the same effect, looks different in serial, parallel, and in layer node, or layer mode.
Okay. Well, let's color correct this, the first node here. I'm just going to richen it up a little bit so we have something that is color corrected.
Just doing a simple
primary color correction on this, right?
Okay.
So what I'm going to do now, this is the most easiest way to do this. I'm going to take the highlight glow and drag it on down on top of here and just set it after it.
And that creates a serial node, just like as if we clicked on serial node and added it and then dragged that blur.
Right, and you see the output of the first is connected to the input of the second.
So the correction is just flowing from one to the next to the output.
Right, and Perfect. If we turn this guy off, that's what has happened to it. I'm going to save this in buffer A, option 1. And so now I'm just going to delete this layer, or this particular node.
Which is the glow.
Which is the glow. Okay, and now I'm going to start from scratch on this. Again, our color correction, but I want to add a serial node on this because this is where we're going to add our layer, right? So I'm just going to hit S, and now I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to, with the same node selected, come back up on top and add a parallel node. And you'll see what we have. We had a couple more nodes added, okay? And the parallel is forcing this bottom node here to take its output from the top, well, node 1. Okay, and this particular node here, node 2, we're going to load in the highlight glow. Remember that? And take it and drag it and drop it right there on top of it. Okay, and now that's there. Okay, and I can also come back over in the non-glowing part of that clip. And if I wanted to just adjust it a little bit one way or the other, I can.
So you're pulling the shadows down, but the glow is staying exactly the same because you're not affecting the glow.
Right, I'm just working within this particular one, and the blending is taking place in the parallel node. Let's save this to B, okay? Option 2. Now I'm going to delete these guys out here. So I'm just going to delete that particular node. I'm going to delete the key node, and I'm going to delete this node down there. So we're starting with basically the one color correction, but I need to connect this to that output node, or to the output bar right here. So now we see the color correction, okay? So now we're going to do the layer node. I'm going to add another node, a serial node. And now I'm going to select, come back to the node and hit Add Layer. And what's really going to happen now, I'm going to put, again, my highlight glow back in on top right here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come on down and right-click and jump into the composite mode of the layering mixer. And as I come down over here, let's just say I'm going to come down to Screen. And that put that particular effect on top of that. And so now, if I want, I could come here and adjust this and change that particular look. It's a subtle different look. And if I want, I could come back up on top of this and adjust that key, the blend of that I can, or the amount of that key I can. But this is one of the new functions that is new with 8.1, which allows a lot of those photoshopping compositing tools.
Right, and those compositing modes are basically just mathematical ways that the pixels are combining with each other. It's saying, okay, in an add mode, take all the bright pixels and add them to the other bright pixels. Each one of those compositing modes is just a mathematical way of the pixels combining together. And they're all different, and the easiest way to really kind of experience what they do is just to experiment with them.
definitely experiment, because basically you're just taking two nodes and running it through here the same way you would with any other application.
So the layer mode and the parallel mode are similar, but the layer mode is giving you this ability to go into composite mode.
Oh yeah, it takes it another step.
Mode. The graph is getting a little complex and hard to kind of see how things flow. Can you show us the ability to kind of open this up, spread it out,
slide this guy on down?
Really be able to see what you're doing.
So it really helps. Sometimes if you're in a smaller window, you can't tell where those lines are going. It looks like a real bad road map. But this is a great little feature right here where it allows you really to set the size of that you physically need. Obviously, you can't color correct in a small window like that, but this is great when you have an external monitor. You know, I actually opened this up a bit larger just because I'm actually grading with the external
And you can always
monitor.
hop over to the viewer screen too, so that if you're in this composite mode and you want to be able to see what you're doing, you can always go, okay, now I've got a larger screen to use. And especially as long as you have a control surface like the Avid control surface, you're doing all your correction on the Avid control surface, you're looking at the viewer mode and able to see something that's bigger, and you can still have your node graph stretched out, so you can really see the flow from one node into the other, and things make a little bit more sense that way.
Exactly. And now, Steve, let's load this into C. I go option 3. And now we got the 3 different looks. So I come back over here, and if I just single click on it, that's the first one, which is through the serial. That's the second, which we set up through the parallel. And that's the third that we set up through the layering.
Great. So 3 totally different looks with the exact same effect.
Right.
It's a great explanation to be able to see how those 3 different types of nodes and the 3 different ways of combining the nodes really makes a difference with a specific effect.
Definitely does.